I had a chance to watch your service on June 16th. I think it's available on Facebook. That's how I saw it.
Okay.
And it was really great to see at the end you kind of did a little virtual tour of all
Yeah.
the residents that you have. And it seems like you've built an infrastructure for a lot of shade and a lot of ways for
Yeah.
them to kind of keep cool in the summer. And I was
Correct.
curious about that actually. When you develop a space for your residents there, was that kind of a fun creative process for you to kind of build those shelters or build those pens and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like just being in tune with, like, what their needs are, and then, um, being able to build something that kinda suits them. So that's been an interesting process of just, tuning in more to what their needs are and listening a little bit better.
And does that come from kind of observing them as individuals where, one resident might prefer a certain degree of shade in this way or a certain degree of like a bedding that looks like something
Yeah.
versus another? Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Like sometimes they'll even like the size of their space, some are more comfortable in like bigger, wider open spaces, some are more comfortable in more confined spaces. They feel safer, things
Yeah.
like that. So all those things kind of get take into consideration, the type of shade that they want, different kind of plants that I put in, all of those things. And then safety is probably our number one concern is that we're trying to provide them.
And safety not just from where they've been rescued from, but safety also from, like hawks or birds of other birds of prey and coyotes and things like
Correct.
that.
Yeah, different predators and things like that. So a lot of work has been done to make sure that everybody's safe.
Yeah. And I was grateful for that virtual tour that you have online where you got to see the wide diversity of
Hmm.
residents that you have. You have tortoises, you have guinea
Yeah,
fowl,
yeah.
um, and dogs and everything. And
Hmm.
so, uh, has that been? Uh, I mean, do you have like when you were in Arizona? Did you have a lot of experience with all types of animals when you were beginning, or is that something that you were like, oh, we rescued a tortoise. I'm going to look into how to care for a tortoise now that I have, or now that I've planned to have a tortoise from the rescue.
Right. Yeah. So that is kind of the process. Is like where the need is. Um, if we had the space, and then we'll take in like a tortoise or a chicken, and kind of like do some more research about what are their specific needs, and try to fulfill that to our best of our ability, um, so that we have you know, a wide variety. In Arizona, I think we had some goats and some pigs too, but here we just mostly have birds.
Yeah. And was there anything from that move from was it Phoenix, right? You were in the Phoenix
Yeah.
area.
Yep.
Uh, you're now in the Bay Area,
Yeah.
Martinez. Yeah.
Yep.
And was there anything in particular that encouraged that move or that interest in moving? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's its own story on itself. So one of the reasons Arizona is very hot and it is very difficult to care for as many animals as we had there. We get temperatures in 120 degrees, which is just absolutely too hot for any being. So we would actually take them inside of the house, and so we would have, goats and chickens and all these birds inside the house. Just kind of really crazy situation. Um, so we knew that like we needed to figure something else out at that point, but the final thing was just like Arizona is not the best political environment for myself or the work that we do. Um, there was actually a situation where the police were looking for a fugitive, possibly, um, and they kind of just stormed into our temple, into our house, um, and kind of upset a lot of the animals, and ended up killing one of our turkeys.
Wow.
So we took that as a situation of, I promised the rest of them that I would do a better job at keeping them safe. So we started our search for someone safer, and that landed us here in Martinez.
Wow. I'm really sorry for that experience. I mean, the environmental situation enough is hard, where it's only going to get
Hmm.
hot. It's only going to get hotter too. But
Right.
the way that the political environment and the way that the
Hmm.
enforcement came in,
Yeah.
and harmed your space and harmed your
Hmm.
residents. I'm really sorry that that happened. And have you felt where you are now, you can have a little bit more assuredness that it's a little bit more balanced, or it's a little,
Yeah,
yeah.
it is more balanced. It is compared to Arizona, I feel like California is a lot more progressive, and that I don't worry as much. Plus, the physical space that we're in now is like on 100 acres, so um, we're pretty isolated from uh, too much interaction with the with the public or anything.
And do you kind of like rely on any kind of vegetation that you grow for yourselves on your
Mm.
100 acres and things like that, or is that mostly
We would
dedicated to
like
animals? Mhm.
we would like to be able to do that. Um, be able to like grow our own crops and things to be able to feed our animal friends here. But it's just me by myself, and maintaining what we have now is kind of a lot of work, and so we're just not there yet. I've only been here for about 2.5 years.
Wow, wow. So you're the primary caretaker
Hmm.
of the temple and the residents. So from what I understand with agricultural life, I mean, there's no days off, right? There's no
Yeah, absolutely.
no mornings off, no evenings off, no
No
nothing.
mornings off, no evenings off. I basically have like a 2 hour radius. I can, go somewhere 2 hours away, maybe spend an hour, and then be able to get back here on time um, during the day. But early mornings, I have to be here to make sure everybody is being fed and eat and cleaned, and then in the evening I do it again. And I don't think I've left here for 2 years,
Wow.
and then that's 365 days, on. I'm just every day I'm doing this.
Yeah, it's not you don't even get weekends. Like there's
Mm.
no and do you find yourself feeling fulfilled by that ability to provide care in a 24/7 kind of way, or does it are there certain elements of it that oh, I wish if I had another help a volunteer or someone that could help me with this, I'd just rather not handle that task, or
I think if we had another volunteer, it would be nice to be able to take like a whole day, where I could like travel or vacation or things like that. I think that's probably the only thing I miss. Otherwise, every morning and every day is a blessing for me to be able to interact with our residents here and learn from them, and be able to spend a lot of my time in meditation. So, this is overall, like, I'm very happy with where I am.
and as a within the Soto Zen tradition, and
Mhm.
I think that that's a probably primary tradition that you're because you're a Zen priest.
Mhm.
Is that is practice woven in with your care giving, or is that
Yeah.
is that would you consider it a part of your I don't know how where Zazen is
Mhm.
um in your practice, but would you consider it Zazen, what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. I take each morning and evening, like, feeding and cleaning times as part of my Zen practice and mindfulness, and really, it's just this wonderful opportunity to, like, learn from all the residents here. Plus, I'm able to, take time to, like, just go into some of the enclosures and sit down and do some, sitting meditation. and those bring up experiences that are very profound.
Wow. So you'll go into an area where a resident lives
Hmm.
and sit, and
Yeah.
you've had profound experiences just having stillness in those areas.
Right, right, and, sometimes, a little chicken will come and sit next to me and kinda join me in that meditation, and, other times they'll, wanna squabble off into the corner and do their own thing, and, being able to, like, practice that type of, patience and gratefulness for this situation is a really beautiful practice.
I was really impressed by your ability to juggle quite a bit and to stay very focused within your service. I got a lot out of it. I really did enjoy watching it. And but you're there, sitting, I think, where you're sitting, and
Mhm.
you're doing the various instrumentation, the
Yeah.
different thing, the bells and everything that you're
Mhm.
doing with a rooster saying good morning, with the dogs kind of coming in and out of the
Yeah,
house and all that, and you maintain that focus. And so it really does feel like you're able to blend elements of your practice with what you're committing to with animal liberation. And also too, what I thought was an extra dose of impressive was that you're able to live stream it and uh, answer questions in real time from
yeah.
people. What is that like when you're doing service? Do you like that element of live stream where you get to engage with people while you're doing service?
Yeah, that's something that I didn't plan on doing. Um, I was kind of, asked by a lot of folks that I should, like, do this, like, kinda weekly, service thing for people to just, like, connect with our temple. And I thought, like, I'll give it a try, and maybe I'll try it for a couple months, and we've been doing it now for a solid, like, 4 years, and, it's just kinda evolved into this situation where I can, have the opportunity to kind of see those live comments and be able to talk to people live and connect with them live and uh, kind of bring the experience of this temple into a wider audience.
And I'm very grateful for it, because it's not just a unique um, opportunity that you're giving people access to, but yeah, because like not everyone is in the Bay Area or wherever it
Hmm.
is, but they care about the work that you're doing, and so I think it's a
Yeah,
wonderful thing. And then yeah, like how unique that you get to take advantage of an element that the internet allows to do
yeah.
that. Uh, and as you were saying, this is the live streaming, attending to questions that come up in a live way. That's all relatively new within 4 years. When you were uh, committing, devoting, beginning in
Mhm.
your Soto Zen path, uh, did you did you see some of this engagement from the teachers that you were working with or the figures that you were working
Mhm.
with, where they would during service kind of engage with people, uh, or is this something that's brand new to you?
So like, yeah, the majority of my training was in the Soto Zen temple, but our teacher was very encouraging of us to venture out and seek out different teachers and seminars that we could attend and different retreats. So like I spent a lot of time in different Tibetan temples around the country. And I think that Tibetan teachers would engage more with this question answer scenario, where as in sitting in the Soto Zen temple, like there was very designated times when the question answer sessions would be, and they definitely would not be every week. And they were very intentional in that way. So it's different than my Soto Zen training, but not so different in the some of the Tibetan schools that I attended.
Yeah, and did you begin your path in Arizona? Is that where you're originally from, or are you from
Yeah,
elsewhere? Mhm.
yeah, I'm
A-
from Arizona, so the temple there was in Arizona.
And may I ask who was your teacher that kind of uh, led you in the beginning?
Yeah, that was John Dennis Gobert, Daikakuji.
And are they still someone that you can remain in contact with, or is that
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we still kind of we still have that student teacher relationship where I'm able to call them up and ask questions and kind of still get further guidance.
and is that something that as someone that's established as someone that is a Zen priest, is that something
Mm.
that that teacher relationship thing, is that something that comes and goes in frequency, or is that something where every month or so you kind of check
Mm.
in and you reestablish things?
Yeah, I think it's just like uh, when I'm pondering something or in need of another opinion. I think in the beginning it was very structured, and now it's a lot less structured. Maybe once every 3 to 6 months, I'll kind of give them a call and connect and kind of give them progress of where I'm at and what I'm doing, and he might suggest a different practice or suggest something else. But I always see myself like I'm gonna always be a student, regardless of how established I might be perceived.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that kind of allows for a lot more, like, that openness and humility. I think that's something that you
Mm.
also speak about in your service. You're always kind of encouraging that, and
Yeah.
I really appreciated towards the end there how you mentioned that um, you're welcome to hear differing opinions too, and
Mm.
hopefully the things that you do will change some minds, but you're also willing to have your mind adapted or be be affected by somebody else, but saying something. And I- how did you begin your your path towards Buddhism? Was there something like a particular moment that brought you in, or was it uh, a kind of a culmination of years of seeking, or things just arriving to you?
Yeah, I think I started very early on, maybe when I was like 12 years old. I thought to myself like, you know, what do I want to do as like a career, or like what do I want to do with my life? I started really thinking about this at a very young age, and the one thing I really wanted to do was be of service to others. And I thought like, well, how do I do that the best way? And I started like researching deeper into like philosophy and religion, and trying to figure out like the best way to be of service to people. And but probably at the age of like 15, I was just like looking at different religions and ran across a Buddhist temple, and I thought I would kind of go in there and talk to them and give that a try. And it kind of like other fortunate events just kind of kept leading me down that path over and over. My first trip to the temple, they politely kind of threw me out and asked me to leave, um, and not wanting to create any trouble, I left. But later that week, I had met the son of my my then teacher, and we became friends, and then we got reconnected into that temple.
Wow. Just like the timing wasn't right for them, or the timing wasn't maybe right. I don't know for you, but it's great that you got to be able to get
Mm,
reintroduced.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and was that the temple that now that you found your teacher, and that
yeah.
you wow, that's wonderful. And was there a moment in particular when you were hearing your teacher speak, or whatever, or just be about, doing their service, or doing whatever it is around the center of the temple, that you thought, well, now this is someone that I need to deepen a relationship with, or I need to hear more from? Was there like a certain type of draw, or was it just, oh, everything this person's saying makes sense to me?
Mm. Yeah, I think the main thing was like the open mindedness of my teacher. Um, that. what resonated a lot with me was that like, oh, like I don't have all the answers, and but you should definitely seek out all the answers. Um, so like I really like that teaching, and so like that particular I think teaching really resonated with me, and thought like, well, this is somebody that I should probably listen to and follow a little bit more intently.
Yeah, that's I really like that encouragement and that humility too, where it's just like I can't possibly know everything, but that doesn't mean I can't try,
Yeah.
or I can't try to at least be open to it.
Mhm.
And with your relationship with um non-human beings and bodhisattvas, did that go hand in hand with the beginning of your Buddhist practice, or is that something that you kind of became interested in after years of being in Soto Zen?
Yeah, many, many years. It's a very interesting. My teacher was a vegetarian, but it was not part of the teachings that he really talked a lot about. And you know, his son, my best friend at the time, was a vegetarian too, and you know, we would have talks about it, and I just kind of like, yeah, I don't really understand that, and I don't really, you know, resonate with animals very well. Um, and it wasn't, I was at that temple like with more intense training for about 12 years before I was ordained. And after I was ordained, you know, my teacher was like, okay, like now you have to like do something with this. And I was like, I don't know what to do. Like I don't enjoy teaching, and I don't, you know, I don't want to like open my own center. Like these are things I don't really want to do, but you know, I was encouraged to do something with this. So, you know, I spent a lot of time meditating about this and thinking about this. Um, and one day I was like interacting with this with my dog trainer who was helping me train my dogs at the time. And I was talking to her about Buddhism, and she said, "Oh, that's so strange that like you have all this love and compassion for all these beings, but you don't really think about animals too much." And like that was like the light bulb moment was that oh yeah, like that's true. I don't have all this um understanding for non-human animals, and I thought that I probably should, and so I went online and kind of like exposed myself to, you know, what was happening to our animal friends, and I was like, okay, like that is probably what I should do, is you know, kind of dedicate my service to them.
Wow. So you found like through like a gentle shaming, you were you were like given a moment to reflect on a gap in your maybe in your practice, but just also just in your understanding, and you kind of went headlong into
Mhm.
now a very comprehensive understanding of how not just animals are being harmed, but also how to care for them too, because
Yeah.
animal husbandry or animal care is an entirely different ball game than just kind of brushing your own teeth or whatever it is.
Mhm.
So, just curious, what were some of the resources that you used to learn about the state of human and animal relationships and where they're at?
Yeah. Yeah, I like how you mentioned about the criticism as being like a motivation for me, and I find that true in my life a lot. That sometimes the that criticism or what we perceive as like being shamed or whatever does kind of like um, push us in a direction to kind of wake up. And I think that's, you know, marked in a lot of Zen teachings, and it's been able to help me a lot with that. But going on to your other question about, I'm sorry, I lost that other
Oh
question.
yeah,
Was
yeah.
the
So like, what did you? How did you go about your research into understanding the relationship
uh,
between humans and animals, and trying to grasp where we're at and where we could be better?
mm. Yeah, so I think you know, once you know, my friend had talked about, you know, what happens to non-human animals is pretty terrible. I had this like vague idea, like, well, of course animals are gonna have to die if we're gonna eat them or anything like that. And I really just kind of thought that that's what it was all about. So, I kind of went online and just like I was like, well, maybe I should change my diet first. And I looked up like ethical vegetarian and what that means. And like this word popped up that I never seen before, which was vegan, and I didn't know what that meant. So I looked more into that, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm just kind of doing Google searches and seeing all these things that happen to our non-human animal friends, not in only in our food system, but our clothing and animal testing and entertainment and the different poisons that we put on our planet, and how many beings suffer from you know directly from humans, and it kind of opened my eyes that way. Um, I think I was running across, uh, scrolling through my Facebook, and I saw this image of this cow being in this machine being turned upside down and then having their throat cut, which is like a common practice in Europe. Um, and from that moment, I was like, yeah, I'm not going to participate in this anymore. And even after that moment, like I went, changed to being vegan overnight. I felt this profound sadness and pain. And that's shortly after that I decided, well, that means I need to like do something about this. Like I can't just abstain from causing harm. Like I should actively seek out to end that harm.
Wow. It's amazing too that, yeah, you had your conversation with the person that was training your dogs, and then you did some research and saw some distressing facts and images and videos,
Mhm,
and but then there was this moment that when your diet changed, or when your
mhm,
interaction with animals in a even in a material sense, maybe like no more
yeah.
leather belts, no more, these
Mhm,
things, uh you you experienced like profound sadness.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I
mhm,
definitely didn't think I was doing enough. That's just by not participating.
yeah, and that sadness compelled like a healing action, where it's not like
Mm,
I need t- this suffering is too hard to just bear witness to. I need
mhm,
to make an active thing. So uh that led to a deeper understanding of animal function,
yeah.
of how nature works, how your
Mhm,
nature works. But it's amazing how like the intake, like literally the food intake of your life, when you changed that, it
mhm,
led to more profound change for you in a spiritual sense, in a within a Buddhist sense.
yeah.
Did you find, as you were researching relationships between humans and animals, and just the functions of the universe in general within your life, did you find Buddhist teachers or sutras or things like that, where you
Mhm.
felt like there were animal elements of animal liberation that were being seen by you, like you felt like animal liberation is seen in these words of the Buddha, or these words of
Mhm.
other teachers?
Yeah, I think that there's probably like some direct quotes that I probably couldn't pull up out of my memory right now that I think a lot of other Buddhists rely on. Um, but for me, I think one of like the quote that all beings have Buddha nature, all beings inherently have Buddha nature. So like that resonated with me. That all beings like are inclusive of uh, of our non-human animal friends. And it was actually one of the teachings, I think, even one of my teachers impressed on me that like even the hungry ghosts and the demons in the hell realms like are deserving of compassion, and and we should seek to end the suffering of them too. So the idea of Jizo Bodhisattva, who took the vow to remain in hell to help all the beings there, really was like a profound teaching that knew that like let me know that I was like on the right path for helping our non-human animal friends.
Wow, yeah, the selflessness of the
Mm.
act, and to bear such an intense amount of pain and suffering, to witness that much pain and suffering. Was it I know that Jizo is someone that, or is a figure that looks after children, right? It's
Hmm.
like unborn children and things. Is
Yeah.
is there is there an animal association with Jizo, or like a
Yeah. So
specific?
I mean, mostly what drew me to the Jizo practices was uh, the connection with the hell realm,
Mm, mm.
and then realizing that when we look at the six realms of existence, they kind of like mirror our own human experience and kind of like mirror the experience of all sentient beings. And then I start to realize that a lot of this suffering and pain that our non-human animal friends endure is very much like is described in the hell realm. When you read things like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, you start to make these connections about being born in a realm where your life is completely controlled, where the your birth and death are set by somebody else, and when you eat and when you don't eat, and when how much pain you endure is like all predetermined. And I found that to be very much what is happening in the factory farming industries.
But it's not necessarily. Thank you for elaborating on that. But
Hmm.
it seems like it's a hell experience, a hell realm experience. Doesn't necessitate an animal life to experience it, though, right? Because all
Right.
humans can experience the hell realm,
Absolutely.
and animals can also experience a sense of equanimity or
Hmm.
peace, or
Yeah.
just the sense of balance, right? I mean, in the wild, um, I think it's right that pelicans eventually go blind because of the amount of times that the force of their
Hmm.
faces go into the water. So eventually they get blind, and therefore they're not good at hunting, and that eventually can lead to their end. But
Hmm.
that is the nature of their physical bodies going through their physical and natural
Yeah.
experiences. um and so there's suffering there, but there is this natural element of being able to go about their business,
Hmm.
and things like that. And do you find that when these animals are in your care, that you kind of provide this ability or chance that they can have
Hmm.
equanimity or balance in their life?
Right. Right. That's kind of our goal here, is to like nurture their own um, spiritual liberation now that they've made it here to the temple, so that they can experience some calm and some, like you said, equanimity, so that they can develop um, their own spiritual awakening. Um, so yeah, to definitely see that, like I said, like the six realms of existence, I see like mirrored in all sentient beings kind of
Yeah.
experience these things.
And on their spiritual journey, because I think on your website,
Mm,
or elsewhere, I've seen that some of the residents that you have on the temple grounds or in the temple, you've given ordination to, or
mm,
you've some sort of established, almost formal, or if not fully formal, uh, Buddhist relationship with them. What is that process like to ordain, or to offer something within a Buddhist formal framework
mm.
to a non-human friend?
Yeah, so the idea came from at a lot of Japanese Buddhist funerals, non uh, non monks and non priests would go through the process of ordination at the time of death, to kind of give them a little bit better fortunate rebirth and a better connection to the Dharma. And I thought, well, if this can be done for humans, and then this should absolutely be done for our non-human animal friends. So I kind of took that process and just applied it to our non-human animal friends here. So like we, any animal who may um, pass away here at the temple or elsewhere, we will try to provide that service for them, a funeral service with ordination.
And do they receive Dharma names
Yeah.
during that process?
Yes.
And wow, I mean that's a it's a it's a very, you know, not that I'm like uh evaluating it, but like there's a very
Hmm.
appropriate a very appropriate way that you're doing that, where you are honoring them,
Hmm.
like they are Buddhas, like they are
Hmm.
Bodhisattvas, like, just as anyone that's a part of a Zen community, specifically for a Zen community. But I think maybe this is applicable for other traditions within Buddhism, where
Yeah.
upon death, there is this moment where people can come together, or the community, the temple community, can come together and honor and give them a chance to end their suffering, or to
Yeah.
at least make it a little bit easier. Um,
Hmm.
wow. And then I'm really struck too, because there's some videos on your page that I've seen where you are providing a service, I think, and a turkey um, comes up to you, and you like make a forehead to forehead contact.
Yeah.
That's like prolonged. It's like a long time that they're
Hmm.
there. Do you find that you're able to, by giving so much, by creating such a peaceful place for them to live and to thrive, that you can be sometimes surprised by how much personality can come out of some of these animals, or
Yeah.
that are unique to them. Like this turkey is
Mhm.
unlike other residents, other turkeys that you've met.
Yeah. Yeah. They're all so individualistic, when you start to study birds to be able to like care for them, there's always like this just go, well, all turkeys are like this, and it's like, oh, not really. Yeah, that's like saying, all human beings are this way, and we know better than that. That we're all like kind of individuals and interact with different individuals in different ways. So like absolutely, I have these like special connections with some of my turkeys and some of my chickens, and others maybe not so much. But I value each one of those connections so much. There's a quick story about one of the horses here on the property, um, who is known to be kind of mean and a little aggressive. And I was walking by him one day, and because I know he was mean, I just kind of like ignored him and like walked by, and he reached over and bit me on the back and like lifted me off the ground. So much pain, and it hurt so bad. And then he dropped me and let me go. Immediately, like turned to him and like bowed. And in that moment, like I had this profound love for him that I'd never had before. Where before I just like kind of ignored him. And then all of a sudden, like after that, was like I became very attached to him and felt like this person here has shown me this really great teaching, and I was so grateful for it at that moment, um, and developed now a very close bond with him.
What That's an amazing story, and I'm so sorry that you had to experience so much pain as a result of the lesson. But what would you say, what was the teaching that moment with the horse gave you?
I think the teaching was to like one like just be a little bit more aware, and that we all communicate in very different ways as individuals. Um, and that even I think that there was no malice when that horse bit me and picked me up off the ground. I think at that moment that was just his way of communicating with me that hey, like I'm here, and I want you to pay a little bit more attention to me. Um, and I think that was a really important lesson I learned in that moment.
Yeah, the horse was, I know I'm rough sometimes, but it doesn't mean that don't got to count me out. Like
Yeah.
I'm still part of the sangha here. So
Yeah,
don't.
absolutely.
Uh, wow. And so yeah, so I didn't realize that you also had you were caring for horses. So you have guinea fowl, ducks, roosters, tortoises, horses,
Mhm,
dogs. Yeah, how do you go about learning how to care for this uh, really abundant, diverse resident
mhm.
group?
Yeah, so, there's, horses and cows on the property, which is, this this property I'm at is, part of One Living Sanctuary, which is another sanctuary, who does most of the care for the horses and the cows. Um, my job up here is mostly just to interact with them and, maybe, when I see their waters up here, up on top of the hill getting low, then I'll try to get them filled up. Or during the summer months, we get a little low on how much grass they can eat, so then I'll provide them with some of the horse and cow food. Um, but really, I don't really know much about caring for large animals. Mostly, I'm just caring for smaller animals like the birds and the tortoises and the dogs.
And this seems like it's because of what is rescued, right? Is how much you know and how much you are around chickens or
Yeah,
ducks and things like
yeah.
that. It could very well be rabbits or something like that. It's just not
Mhm.
what has been rescued or brought to you or somehow come into your care.
Right, it's kind of just like whatever karma kinda drops on our temple, then that's what we're going for. Right now, we have, added 2, rat friends who were rescued from, laboratories, so they're laboratory rats. So I've been learning a lot about how to do rat care, and,
Yeah.
they're wonderful residents.
Have there been particular moments of pleasant surprise or difficulty just learning about rats and how to care for them? Because it's not just rats, right? Because these are rescued
Mm,
animals that have had storied sufferings or
yeah.
abuses or things like that. So how has that process been for you?
So, when researching rats, I think that, I learned that, they can have these behavioral problems, or they might bite you, and you got to be careful for this and look out for this behavior and things like that. But when these rats came to us, being laboratory rats, they are very tame and very docile, which is uh, a bit unfortunate because that's why they're bred. They're bred to be easily handled, and they're bred because they won't really fight back, which is sad. But it was definitely a surprise to me that how kind these rats are, regardless of like the trauma that they've experienced so far. They're very kind and very loving, and they really just want to spend some time with me and crawl up my arm and hang out, and they like the attention.
I didn't anticipate that learning that where you're not just dealing with uh, a textbook rodent. You're also dealing with something that
Yeah,
has been bred to be a certain way,
yeah,
and now they're removed from that environment, and it's sad, but it's also makes it better for, I guess, the initial relationship where they're okay being handled. They're okay
yeah.
being fed in a certain timing
Hmm.
or things like that. And have rats ever been animals that you for a long time have been okay with? I mean, or like just like as a person growing up, were they things where like, oh, shoo 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 kind of thing, or was it was like, oh, actually, I don't mind a rat on my shoulder as a pet.
Mm. I think that I always had like a fondness for rats. I think I had a fondness for non-human animals, most of my life, or at least, I thought they were cool looking, or I thought they were neat. But I did find that like my mind changed about insects a lot. Like I used to, Billy be, oh, kind of, I don't want these insects over here. I need to get away from me. And now, like, I live with like a lot of spider friends, and there's definitely like we get our tarantula visits up here, and Those are things I think I like maybe would have shied away from before, and I've learned to like live with them. There's a lot of, wild rats that live up here and a lot of wild mice that live up here. And they've kind of moved into my house. And so I've kind of like learned how to share my space with them. So I think that's something that um, is different living here than it was when I was living in the city. Um, we tried to keep everybody out of the, human living areas. And now we kind of embrace a more cohabitat uh, life here at the temple.
And with these the wild mice
Mhm.
and things like that, was is there a kind of shared space understanding where they see you and they're like, He's all right. He's, so we're good here. It's like there's no reason to fear. There's no reason to have any
Mm.
or there are moments of shock where you kind of catch them and they're saying, "Oh wait, I'm not. Don't don't look." Or is it kind of just a very cohesive environment that when you go to sleep or whatever it is?
I think in the beginning when they first like snuck into the house, they were very worried about me. I am this really big creature that can probably cause them harm, and it took them a while to realize that like, oh, I'm not going to cause you any harm. In fact, like I leave out food for them. And I found that like when I leave designated food out for them, then they kind of leave my food alone because they have easier food to get to now.
Yeah.
So we, learn how to have that. It was definitely a learned experience and not something that just um, happened, overnight.
I think it's amazing too that your temple space. I mean, I'm assuming do you live within the grounds of the temple
Yeah.
or yeah. Um, it's amazing that there is so much natural integration into your home because you have your home
Hmm.
that is a human domicile. It's like for
Hmm.
your living. It's the doorways are your height and things like that.
Yeah.
And yet nature comes in and goes,
Hmm.
right? The field mice I think probably go about their business
Yeah.
elsewhere and then come
Yeah.
home or things like that. Have you really enjoyed that cohesion,
Mhm.
that kind of blurring of boundaries of what's inside, what's outside, what's domestic, what's
Mhm.
wild? Do you kind of thrive in that environment?
It definitely like makes me think about the like non-dualistic teaching. How this is bad and then this is good, or this is my home and this is your home. And it kind of like makes me just kind of be in every moment in a very physical way rather than just a philosophical way or just a theoretical way. Like I'm actually able to like put this into practice. So it's a really wonderful opportunity to be able to live this way.
Yeah. And I'm so happy to hear that it is a special environment for you and that you're thriving in it and that it feels like it's this is helpful for your practice with the non-dualism.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm curious too, like this is something that I learned recently with regards to rattlesnakes, which are in
Mhm.
California is I think one of the, if not only, uh, poisonous, native wildlife poisonous snakes that we have here.
Mhm.
And uh, I recently saw that there is a big program. There's a big push from a nature organization, and I'll try to remember it. But they are trying to shine a light on how to actually engage with them, and
Mhm.
where they aren't a as big of a threat in a in the way that mainstream society or television and all those sorts of things kind of tell you.
Yeah.
They are scary, right? They rattle, and
Yeah.
they can really pack a wallop, and they can really cause some very serious
Mhm.
harm to a person or to your dog or to whoever. But there's a lot of destigmatizing going on with rattlesnakes.
Yeah.
Have you? I mean, being in more rural area in California, do you have experiences with snakes, with like such as rattlesnakes or anything like that?
We have not had any run-ins with rattlesnakes. I think there are several other snakes up here that I've run across. I'm just very appreciative that, they come by and say hello. But we have had, like, literally 0 predator problems up here, partially because I keep the spaces, well protected. I keep the individuals that need to be protected about from certain predators protected from them. Maybe rattlesnakes would pose a problem to the birds, but because we haven't had that situation here, it's not something I've had to deal with. But I do appreciate the groups who are trying to destigmatize some of our animal friends. Often get looked down upon. Like you said, like people think rattlesnakes are scary. I've interacted with them in Arizona, and from my experience is that like, oh yeah, when you hear that rattle, just like be careful where you're stepping and try not to engage into their space, and everything will be okay.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think like, especially with them like liking shade, they can get under your house or they can get,
Hmm.
elsewhere, but it doesn't seem like they are uh with their notebooks out plotting and planning
Right.
how
Yeah.
to attack anybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something to be aware of, but then again, I mean the just the existence in general, you don't just walk into the street without looking both ways. You don't, there's
Hmm.
a certain level of awareness that we all have to have at certain points. And I was curious too, because you have such a unique uh, access to a lifestyle. This is a very unique
Hmm.
lifestyle that you have, at least from a Bay Area perspective. I'll just
Yeah.
go ahead and say it. But you also have this unique uh, experience of caring for rescued animals, and I don't
Mm.
know as you've done your research. Are there a lot of textbooks or are there a lot of research websites about like how to care for rescued animals? Because that's a pretty
No,
specific
it's
thing.
extremely specific. Yeah, and you know the scholarly writings on this or the textbooks per se about something like Cornish cross uh, chicken is all about how to have them survive for 6 weeks and then be slaughtered. And anything that would like pose a risk to the flock, the suggestion is to just to cull them. So there's not a lot of information about their specific health needs. So that is something that is lacking in this world, and I have to rely upon other individuals who also have experience rescuing these types of animals, and what they do for particular types of diseases, and what kind of medicines to give them, when they're feeling ill. Um, and it is a definite uphill battle when it comes to caring for animals who are rescued from factory farms, because really there is not a lot of information about how to care for them past their typical age of 6 months to 6 weeks to 6 months is probably as long as they'll ever live, or plan to live.
That's a important point for me to recognize where these domesticated animals or factory farmed animals, they were meant to grow big in these areas, right? And then to
Mhm,
have relatively short lives and to grow
mhm,
fast or to grow isolated or whatever it is.
mhm.
And so you're extending their lives in a way that is
Yeah,
more or less unprecedented within a
yeah,
factory farm setting.
correct.
Well, I know you don't have any free time, but I would love, if there was a book out there about how to care for rescued animals,
Mm.
I think that you would be someone that has that expertise, and I'm not going to put more work on your table, but that would be a wonderful resource.
Yeah,
So just just for thought for all those minutes that you have to yourself, you can.
y
Uh,
you know,
think of-
it does bring me to, when you mentioned, like, how short their lifespans are, literally, like, we are slaughtering, babies, and so it kind of brings us back to the Jizo practice, Jizo being, ones who, the bodhisattva who cares for, for babies. Literally, I see, so many of them, come to me as babies. They're so young. Um, our chickens don't even chirp yet, or they're only chirping. They're not making any other sounds. They're only making baby sounds when they come here.
Wow. And yeah, that's fascinating. So the 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 general maturity of your residents is that
Mhm.
of people that are just kind of, or non-human friends that are just kind of just coming into their lives.
Yeah,
And how grateful of a situation it is that you allow occasions for them to then have more of a cycle, have more of a
yeah.
maturity. And um, have you had any residents that have lived into a mature age, or are you mostly surrounded by new residents?
Um, Unfortunately, because of the way that they're being bred nowadays to grow so quickly and have so many diseases that, a chicken will typically live for about 10 years, if they're like raised from an egg, um, in a healthy environment. However, because these residents were not born that way, typically they'll live to, 3 years if we're really lucky. Occasionally we'll have somebody who's 4 or 5 years old, but it's very rare. Most die very young still, just because they're just not given that chance, at such a young age when, just as a human baby, it's so vitally important that they get the right nutrition and the right environment and the right love and care for them to, have a successful life. The same with our animal friends. They're robbed of all of that love and care and proper nutrition, and so they end up not living long because of that.
And I was curious, like, with because you get them from factory farms or from
Mhm,
slaughterhouses. Uh,
mhm,
are these animals that you're friends that you're receiving, are they donated to you? Like, how are they typically like rescued and like donated, like in the sense of like, someone, I I somehow now have this chicken, may I offer them to your temple? Is that typically
mhm.
how it goes?
No.
Okay.
So yeah, we specialize in at risk um, residents here. So most of our residents are like you said, direct rescued directly from factory farms and slaughterhouses from by experienced rescuers. And this could be anywhere from a negotiated release. Often at like the slaughterhouses, we just negotiate with the slaughterhouse workers who find it in their hearts that they want to give somebody a chance, and so they will just surrender them. And once they're surrendered to a rescuer, then I have relationships with those rescuers that will know that they can bring them here. Other times, like in the cases of like factory farms, there are rescuers who are investigating these farms, sometimes undercover type of investigations. And when an opportunity comes to where they can rescue somebody and get them somewhere, then they might come here, um, as they're a little bit more protected here.
Wow. Um, and well, I'm glad you have relationships with these people that can get you the residents, or to get
Mhm,
allow you to give your residents the care
mhm.
that you offer them. And and it does seem like there's a great deal of coordination
Yeah.
happening that can't really be disclosed, or it can't, there's certain elements of it that have to be
Yeah.
clandestine. Yet
Mhm,
at the same time, like, I appreciate this element where there are some times where you have conversations, not you, but the rescuers will have conversations with employees
mhm.
that find it in their heart to
Yeah.
help facilitate your new resident coming to you.
Mhm,
And that's an interesting interaction where
Yeah.
someone that's working at a slaughterhouse knows that suffering's happening, or that
Hmm.
that something that doesn't, maybe on one level or another, maybe for an individual, or maybe
Hmm.
for the whole process itself, there is some sort of um, uh, hope that this wasn't the case, or wishing that this
Yeah.
wasn't the case. Have you ever interacted with former slaughterhouse employees, or have you ever are some of these rescuers maybe people that are fed up with the system, how it was, or like, I'm just curious
Mhm.
what your engagement with some of these people that have had a change of heart.
Yeah. So I've had the opportunity to interact directly with slaughterhouse workers and previous slaughterhouse workers, and have conversations with them, and it's a reminder that again, it's easy to see that all beings have Buddha nature, because you see the care and compassion in slaughterhouse workers who do realize that, like, this is not the greatest thing, and maybe today I can help an individual, and I'm so very grateful for that. And I am, um, it kind of renews my spirit that that all beings can practice compassion. But yeah, I've had those opportunities have been really special to me to be able to interact with people that way.
Yeah, because things are on the line for them, like they're
Mhm.
employees, or they're doing what they need to do tomorrow, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, so to make their employers or their business function. And
Mhm.
I was curious, I mean, are you familiar with someone like Temple Grandin? Do you know Temple Grandin by any
Yeah.
chance?
Yeah.
And for those listening that might not know, there's someone that has found ways to uh, make slaughterhouses. I don't
Mhm.
know if maybe specifically for cattle, but for those to have less fear, to have less suffering as part of the process itself. Um, do you think that figures like these um, can be helpful for the slowing or the movement away from eating meat on a regular basis, or from the industry itself? And like, because there's a degree of compassion and understanding that has to go
Mhm.
into modifying systems of slaughterhouses for them
Mhm.
to function the way they function. Do you think that these are the types of people that can help lead to more effective change going in the future?
Um, uh, on my personal note is no, I don't think that this method is very helpful. I think that um, that there's like no humane way to kill somebody who doesn't want to die. So I don't think that that type of movement is very helpful, or that have these fear-free slaughter. I don't think this is a good path to go down. Um, I think that we should try to figure out ways to move away from slaughter and move away from killing of other animals. Against move away from the killing of all beings. I don't think that this is something that we should necessarily be making less fearful, but just less often in general. Um, and I think that, like, although I have a great deal of compassion for slaughterhouse workers as individuals, and I would have to say that, like, I have a amount of compassion for Temple Grandin, but I don't think that that particular path is the best one that we could be going down right now.
The path is more the emphasis of animal liberation is to stop all of the suffering altogether. It is to not have the issue of slaughtering be a part of the equation
Mhm.
at all. Right.
Agreed, and I do think that there's, like, incremental steps that we should be taking, and I think that Temple Grandin brings up a really good point for us to, like, think about and ponder, and that point is that, like, all, like, the current process that we have is so fearful and is so, maybe brutal, and and I think that the point we should walk away from is that, like, well, any practice that is full of fear and brutality, like, well, what is the underlying reason that this is even happening? And I think that point is should be probably emphasized and looked into, not really necessarily to stop the brutality of it, but maybe just to stop the whole process in general, and really look at, like, where is the root of this type of suffering, um, and that, yeah, this is a problem. So I do appreciate Temple Grandin bringing to light that there is a problem. I just think we disagree on how we would solve that problem.
Yeah, if there's something to soften, then
Mm,
what is it that is being softened? I mean, like putting a pillow on a bullet or something like that. It's just
right.
not. It's like it's still gonna. We're still doing the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I hear that. Um, and Yeah, but I appreciate your level of compassion for the people that work in these areas, and for the people that are doing their best to do good work.
Mhm.
And but also again appreciating that well, it might not just be enough. There's
Yeah.
more to be done. And so for someone that is on the precipice of veganism or just more
Mm,
ethical eating,
mhm,
what are some things that you did to outside of the philosophic elements, just like the nutrition elements? Like what are some things that you can offer to somebody that's trying to eat more ethically, or
mm.
how can they introduce more nutrition in more
Mm.
ways than one into their life?
I am probably the worst person to ask that question, as, like, I am not, very good at, mm, knowing what, like, a, healthy diet is. I don't really know. And I think there's a lot of resources out there that folks can, lean on. There's a plethora of good resources out there, for anybody to eat a more healthy lifestyle. I just don't think I'm the right person to give that kind of advice, because my advice comes, back down to, like, the next time, uh, you're craving, that chicken sandwich, is to, like, look into a chicken's eyes, or to spend some time with a chicken, spend some time with a cow. Um, Kind of think of individuals, um, and I think if you're looking to change your diet, I think it needs to start with, interacting with those individuals that might have an effect on your diet.
And yeah, so there's this awareness too, like where you
Mm,
feel the pang of hunger, or you feel
mhm,
the experience of hunger arising in you. And then you have your old favorites or your familiars, where
mhm,
you're a nice trip to In and Out or whatever it is,
yeah,
and just encouraging a moment of reflection as to the
yeah,
interconnectedness of everything that makes In and Out,
mhm,
uh, and seeing what your decision is after that.
yeah,
And trying to be with it, and hopefully making a move for the best. And yeah, I understand your hesitation to provide like specific nutritional
advice, yeah,
yeah, because I mean, every body is different,
mm,
and every body
absolutely.
needs more of this than that, or
Mhm,
whatever it is. But it is something that I could see as a barrier for some people, where
mhm,
to change their diet takes a lot of work, right? It takes a lot of research. It
mhm,
takes a little more study. So I was just curious if like how you approached it. And then as we kind of come to a close on our conversation, I was curious if there was anything in particular that you would want to share about animal liberation, or if there was like a cause or a book
mhm,
or a foundation that you'd want to have um, more ears and eyes on, that you care about.
yeah. I mean, I think we're always trying to get exposure for our temple here, just so that more folks know that it exists and that it's around, we're always looking for folks to come and visit and have conversations with. I'm very active with several animal rights groups, Direct Action Everywhere here in the Bay Area, as well as PETA, things like that. I do consider myself an activist as well as a Buddhist priest. So, I would like to get more folks kind of like tuned in to, what activists are doing, and as well as kind of look into where our temple's at. We're still trying to fundraise to build this place up and to provide more homes um, for our residents and to have a better place for them. So it'd be nice if people were looking into that.
And you can help Animal Liberation Temple by through cash donations, physical donations,
Yeah,
volunteering, and
yeah, absolutely.
a lot of and just getting the word out.
Yeah, and just talking about it. Yeah, I really think that like a lot of this change is going to happen with conversations, right? So I think it's great that if people go vegan, but really, like, I would love to have more conversations about non-human animals, and I think that's where we're going to make a really big difference and really big change. Let's talk about a chicken.
Yeah, right. Yeah, really get into it. And
Hmm.
and I noticed you had a service book for
Yeah.
for your as you presided the service. Is
Hmm.
that something that also that the people that participate in your service also have that service book, or is that something that
Yeah.
yeah, is that available online too, or is that
If folks message me, either through our Facebook or email or through our website, they can get a copy of that. I just have those physical copies here. We don't really have an online store. People keep telling me to make one, but with all my work, sometimes that gets pushed behind.
yeah, no, I hear that. Yeah, your branding is awesome. Yeah, I really like
Thank you.
your the logo is very dope.
Hmm.
And yeah, the service book, I mean, just for anyone that hasn't seen an animal liberation service online yet, it offers such a specific and unique and very
Hmm.
beautiful service overall. I mean,
Thank you.
you start with the Heart Sutra, you bring in Tibetan elements like you were talking about, like
Hmm.
there are different elements that you bring in, and then there are refuges and specific animal liberation um, prayers at the end.
Yep.
It's just a very well thought out and very uh, has so many different qualities to it that are just very meaningful and profound. So
Thank you.
so thank you for sharing it to everybody online, and thank you for making it available for those that are interested.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so
absolutely.
much. Thank you so much, Reverend Yamada. I
Thank you.
really do appreciate it. And I look forward to connecting with you again.
Absolutely. Anytime.